serious, man. You cannot be serious.
How's that for technology, Duck?
Oh, brilliant.
We're out on the road. We're up at, where in the hell are we?
Burke.
We're at the back of Burke, up in the middle of nowhere. It's called the back of Burke because if you're in Burke, you are nowhere. That's why they call it the back of Burke. And we've just got the actual McEnroe man himself calling it off the Wimbledon courts. So we just did that on the phone. That's John McEnroe. You cannot be serious. We haven't got the music. We haven't got Maxine Nightingale. We're just working on very, very small a small budget here, but it's very nice to see you, Duck.
Yes, who would have thought, Sam, not all that long ago, that you could be sitting in a caravan at the back of Burke and I can be sitting in Victoria and we can be having a conversation and we can be recording it. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought you weren't even born in 1969 when President Nixon spoke to Neil Armstrong on the moon and said, hello, Neil and Buzz, I'm speaking to you by telephone from the Oval Room of the White House. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, but yet we can't. There's a lot of things we can do, but then there's some simple things we can't take care of in this beautiful world of ours.
And beautifully said, Duck. What a nice segue into what we're going to talk about, which is, for a start, I watched the 100th, and I made a point of saying it wasn't a celebration. It was a 100-year anniversary of North Melbourne.
Yes.
It wasn't a celebration because, my God, if we'd had a celebration, we would have gone to the Crown Entertainment Centre and introduced all the people who've made the club great. So it wasn't a celebration. It was just a commemoration of 100 years of the North Melbourne Football Club. And I saw you on Marvel Stadium there. You're out there pressing the flesh, beaming like a Cheshire cat with Mick Martin and Corey McKernan. I couldn't see too many others. Was Kerr there?
I didn't see Kerr. I did see. You know what? When you go to those. By the way, it was a great celebration. It was a good celebration, Sam. It wasn't a great crowd. Only 25,000 people turned up, which wasn't great. I think the Thursday night, albeit is a great night for TV, it's not a great night for people to come out and actually watch the game. So 25,000 I thought was disappointing.
This is what the survey said, Duck.
Yes, correct. That's exactly right. That's what the fans said. They don't like Thursday night footy from that point of view. The thing that I will say, when I first got there and I took Carter with me, he got to meet Harry Sheasel, which you were having a lot of fun about on last Wednesday. Well, he got to meet Harry. Harry signed his footy cards, and he was over the moon. He was calling him the GOAT, and I was nudging him as if to say, "Come on, mate, you're going a bit far there, Carter," by calling him Harry the GOAT. But Carter had an absolute ball. Saw the likes of Malcolm Blight and Keith Gregg and David Dent. Hey?
Yeah, no, you froze there for a minute.
Yes, so did you actually, but I just thought it might have been your old age. I thought you might have thought you turned into a statue. But
I got the cardiac emergency. Was that perhaps up?
Oh yes, you got the defibrillator, is it?
Defibrillator. The company that makes these. Who are they? CPR Helper. Every caravan should have one of these, so that when the old bozos who are driving around the country have a bit of a panic attack, they can get out the defib.
Well, what? Yes, no, and that you got to have those. They should be everywhere. The thing that I like, Sam, and what was great, just to finish off on the anniversary, just like and I dare I say this, but like you go to a funeral and you run into people you haven't seen for a while, and the first thing you say is, because you're at a funeral, you say, we've got to catch up more, stay in contact, let's reach out more. And then you leave, and guess what happens? You don't stay in contact anymore. But it's one of those. It's one of those nights where I must say I ran into heaps of people. I'm not great with names, Jeff, but that was a shocking joke. But I'm not great with names, but. When you surprise yourself, where you run into people and players you never played with, but from different eras, and the names were just coming to me, and I got a couple. I got a couple where I had to say, "G'day, big fella," because they were big. If they were little, "G'day, little fella." And if I knew they were a good player, I'd say, "G'day, legend," or
you didn't know all the great players from
No,
Voss.
I knew all the. No, of course you knew all the great players, but I tell you what, you don't ever do. You don't champ anyone. Is there anything more? G'day, champ.
That's right.
Yeah, champ.
Champ's
a bit
champion at North Melbourne. That was the shin boner of the century. The shin boner of the century.
Arch.
Yeah, Glenn Archer. That must have ticked you off a bit.
Arch was there. We spoke. We caught up. He looked quite tanned. He looked healthy. He looked fit. And that's the other thing. You haven't seen these people for a while, so you remember who they are. And then there's some, like Malcolm Blight, for instance, has not changed.
Was he there?
Yeah.
I didn't see him there.
He looks exactly the same as he did in 1998. He's like you. Whatever you're doing, he's doing. He just hasn't changed.
So, Duck, so you said that you always say to people, look, we must catch up. Who are you going to catch up with that you met there, that you've rekindled acquaintanceships with?
No, there's people, obviously Mick Martin and Mick and I still speak, but we just don't catch up as often as what we would like. So we've organised a couple
you don't put yourself out, Duck.
We've got a couple of lunches. Well, I've got a young family. Their families are all grown up.
Mick got a family?
Mick does, but his kids are a little bit older. So it's a little bit more difficult for me. I was a bit of the butt of everyone's joke because everyone was there. No one else had their kids there. So I've got Carter. Carter's running around. I'm chasing Carter around the function room and and he wants a soft drink and he wants something to eat, but there was nothing there that he liked. So all the past players were looking at me as if to say, Duck, you should have been doing that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Not
were
now.
Any of the mothers there? Did you take any of the mothers there to look after any of the kids? Or
No. You know what? A lot of the partners, there were no real partners. I think Wayne Schwass had his partner there, but no, most of the partners were not there. So
just as an aside, Duck, the great Sam Kerr, she's broken up with her wife.
Really?
Did you know? Yes, she's broken up with her wife.
I didn't know that.
Maybe she can concentrate on being a better person now as far as the Matildas go.
I didn't realise you were turning into Jackie Epstein and were a part of the gossip.
I just saw it on the wires that she'd broken up, and you said it'll do her good that little sort of interruption to her career. She'll be a better person, and maybe she can concentrate on the Matildas now.
Yeah, well, I just love the way you've just morphed into the gossip column. That's fantastic.
It's not gossip.
I know, but I'm a Sam Kerr fan. She's the greatest women's player in the world. She's actually had a quiet year or two because she's had a few injuries, and then obviously she had the stuff going on. But no,
go to court.
We've got to support Sam. Everyone's been to court every now and then, whether it be a parking ticket or whatever it may be. So we support our greats, and Sam Kerr she is one of the greats. I'm looking forward to her getting back to her best. And this might, sometimes when you break up, you know what generally happens when you break up?
Yeah.
You get fitter, you get stronger.
Yeah, you wipe the frown off your face.
You get fitter and stronger because you have to, because you're back on the market. See, you've got to, you watch what you eat. You go back to the gym,
Mr. Vanity.
And then people, you run into your partner, a few months later, and they say, "Why did you do that when I was with you?"
Exactly. People let themselves go. They train off a bit as soon as they
do.
The thing that'll turn you off sex and a healthy lifestyle. The thing that turns you off sex is wedding cake.
I tell you, this is my little. Do you want me to do Duck's tip of Duck's tip of the week? You've just frozen again, but you look good. Duck's tip of the week is to make sure, Sam, Have we lost audio, or
We've
we
lost.
just
Can you hear
freezing?
me? Oh,
No?
how are we going here?
Yeah, no, we lost a bit of audio then. You froze for a little bit. Not sure why, but you are in the back of Burke. We do have to.
Have we finished on the North Melbourne?
Yes, we have. Oh no, I just wanted to give my tip of the week. Are you there?
Now, Duck, this is really annoying. This is just coming in and out. This is equivalent to speaking to Men on the Moon in 1969.
Well, what we can do, we can do it. I mean, it's just because we're filming this as well. We're getting the odd freeze here and then. But my tip of the week, Sam, is this. I remember Dennis Pagan, by the way, who was fantastic on the night. But Dennis Pagan used to say, so we're in the middle of coming up to the middle of July. Now, normally by then, for a number of years, we were about to go into a finals campaign. We knew we were already playing finals. We're a bit like Collingwood now, and we're getting ready. And I'd start I'd get into the gym more, and I'm pumping some iron. I've even tidied up the diet, and I've had a pretty good first half of the year, you know. But Dennis would say, "Look at Duck getting ready for the finals." I wasn't getting ready for the finals. I was getting ready for the footy trip. I was just getting just pumping the arms up. I was just getting beautifully. This is the time where you put in the hard work. While everyone else is whinging about the cold, this is when you put in the hard work, and then you reap the benefits come spring.
I was waiting for you and Dennis to have a circle jerk at that thing there. You've spoken vociferously about, and then he did the speech before the game, which seemed to. This was my point about. If the Kangaroos, North Melbourne, had won that game because Dennis Pagan revved them up, they should have been ashamed of themselves.
He was very. I tell you what, he spoke incredibly well.
I know.
Problem was you couldn't hear it. One of the things, I don't know whether you saw it, but the camera flashed to me, and I was laughing.
You were,
and I wasn't laughing at obviously Dennis. I actually called him the next day and said, "Mate, I hope you know that I wasn't laughing about when you were talking. I was laughing because Carter was running around the back of the thing, doing something that he wasn't meant to be doing while the great Dennis Pagan was talking." Yeah. So I started laughing.
How are you going with the discipline with that child?
Not great.
No. Not
great. It's school holidays at the moment, as you know, or you probably don't know.
No, I do.
Well, you do. You on your travels, you'd be seeing a lot of kids running around the caravan parks and all of that, wouldn't you? They'd be everywhere.
Yeah, we're at a caravan park where there's no dogs. We checked in. They said, "Have you got a dog?" I said, "No." They said, "Good, come on in." Isn't that refreshing?
Are you in a Big Four? Or what are you in?
No, we're at G'day or Discovery.
Oh, you said that. You know what? I've got to write that down. G'day.
Very good.
Pretty easy to remember. Or Discovery.
G'day.
Yeah, no, it's pretty easy.
There is that much carnage on the road, wildlife. It's extraordinary. You don't realise every 100 metres there's kangaroos and sheep and emus.
Oh, there's no
goats.
There's no sheep. There's no
10,000 feral
sheep.
Goats.
Sheep don't get hit by cars. There's no sheep wandering around on the roads. Kangaroos, wombats.
Oh, so you've been on the trip with us, have you?
There are wild goats. I get there's wild goats and stuff.
There's 10,000 goats. There's been sheep who have wandered across the road, have come through from the large estates and people who have land holdings. They just go through the fence and they walk through across the road.
I probably
I'm making that up.
Well, Kerr wasn't at the anniversary. They might have saw Kerr coming and started running across the road.
That's right. Yeah, lamb cutlets.
Yeah.
So righto. Now, I can't quite get all the stations here, and I turned on and I saw one of the football shows, the one that James Hurd's on. I don't know which one. They spent
You're frozen again.
15 minutes talking about someone making contact with an umpire. And then they went on to how much you should get fined if you make contact with an umpire. Surely there's other things going on in the football world besides that, isn't there?
Yes. Look, it's always been a bit of an issue. Remember when Greg Williams just put his hand on an umpire?
Yes.
And I think he got 9 weeks for that. Look, it's always been a trick of midfielders, especially at ball ups and boundary throws, and you'd know this being a ruckman. If you're being tagged, not that they get tagged much these days, but if you have got someone on you at a stoppage, they use the umpire as a bit of a screen so they can get away from that player. So that's probably more of the issue that the AFL is trying to clamp down on. The other incidental contacts, the one where a young caddy ran into an umpire in open play, where the umpire just stepped straight in front of him. I mean, he got off that, by the way. He didn't get a fine for that. But it's more the ball ups and the stoppages, Sam, that the umpires are in and amongst a lot of traffic. And let's be honest, they're not exactly built like you or I. So they're not big guys, and when they get hit by someone with a bit of velocity, they can get hurt.
No, but that's not the point, Doug. Doesn't matter how big or how strong or how robust they are. You shouldn't touch people of authority. That's a fair point. But if you keep adding umpires on, there'll be the more umpires you keep. They have a duty of care to actually keep out of the way the people that make the people who make the game go around, don't they?
Yeah, no, they do, but they're running backwards a lot. And I heard a couple of coaches talk about it on a couple of the 1,000 footy shows that are on these days. And the umpires are now in the corridor more and standing in positions where players want to be. In actual fact, generally, if the umpire's standing there, that's where the space is, and that's a dangerous position. So they're putting themselves in danger.
That's right. It's a bit like pedestrians at a pedestrian crossing. Don't just automatically walk across a pedestrian crossing because you think you have the right of way. Just check to see if there's any cars coming for people who mightn't have seen you.
Actually, this just to go off topic, but it is on topic. Carter, I walked across the crossing yesterday with a red man or person. You're not allowed to say red man anymore. I think you say red person. And Carter said, I'm going to tell the police because it was red. But no, you're right. You're right. They put themselves in the corridor, and that's why I think we're getting a few more collisions.
That's right. Well, I turned off after a quarter of an hour. They kept going on and on and on. What fine this should be, and I thought surely there's other things going on. I tell you what's going on now. Mr. Voss is not going to be the coach of Carlton next year, is he?
I think they should stick with him. I do. Look, Carlton. If they have had the list to win a premiership, in my opinion, in the last 4 years.
Well, there you go. You've answered your own question.
No, they've had the list. In saying that, I don't think Vossi has had any luck whatsoever. They made a prelim 2 years ago, so they were in front in that prelim by 3 or 4 goals a quarter time. So he has taken them that far. Last year they just missed the finals, as we know, and this year they're not going to play finals. It's a step back, but if I remember back to Damien Hardwick, when they played finals, got knocked straight out, then they missed the finals. Everyone was up in arms saying, get rid of him, and then all of a sudden they won 3 flags. Could Carlton do that? I honestly think they have a really good list. I just think there's people like Kerr and Mackay and these guys. Mackay's been injured. He's been out for mental health stuff. Kerr hasn't been at his best. There's been a number of players.
So what luck hasn't Voss had? You said he's hasn't had much luck.
Well, there's injuries. There's luck to do with injuries. And I know there's also good management to do with injuries. And you've got teams that have that. So maybe rather than sack the coach, let's look at why we're getting so many injuries, and let's look at that department. Let's look at supporting Voss more, rather than sometimes, which Carlton have done far too often in recent times, and they just get rid of the coach. Stick with him. He's got a year to run. Let that get to 3/4 of the way through next year. See where they're at, and then decide.
But what? How do you manage injuries better?
Well, what do you mean? How do you manage injuries? Your sports science guys that are getting paid more than the assistant coaches. These guys that come into your club, and there's some good ones which everyone talks about. I won't individualise, but you look at Adelaide all of a sudden have got, they've got basically no injuries. They got one on the weekend where a guy hurt his knee, but that's not soft tissue. But then you've got other clubs like Richmond on the weekend. Their young number one draft pick did his hammy again. Essendon have had a squillion injuries. So if I'm Essendon, I'm just looking at, I'm looking at your, and this is nothing against, but I'm looking at all.
Nothing against the person there at Essendon, but if you just if you're training people to have aerobic fitness rather than match fitness of playing football and kicking the ball and doing some bumping, maybe you've got the wrong strategy.
Yeah, you've got to look at everything to do with their training programs, their weight they're not just running around kicking the ball, but weight programs, all of those things. You've got to look at, dare I say it, because you might upset someone, but you've got to look at players' weight. As players get a little bit older, I think they've got be a little bit lighter. Like there's all these things, and I heard Gary Lyon and Jason Dunstall talking a couple of nights ago about when these young kids come in, should you bring them straight in? Geelong give them a bit of an apprenticeship, then they've been able to come in because they've been a good team. But are we expecting too much of these young kids? They come in and they get injured. So yeah, it gives everyone something to talk about, Sam, and then we're talking about it.
That's what it does. Anyhow, I'm saying it'll either. I've heard that Mr. Ratton might be approached again to coach Carlton, and Mr. Hinkley might be approached.
Do you think Carlton
and Mr. Hurd might be approached?
Geez, you are Jackie Epstein. You are just gossip. You're all gossip today. You're talking about.
I'm a bit bigger than Jack.
But you're talking about marriage breakups. You're talking about rumours in the AFL. You've heard him. I'm prepared to say this. I'm not going to comment on Sam's breakup because that's a personal issue of which I don't delve into. But what I will say about this, Brett Ratton going back.
Her wife has got a child.
Brett Ratton going back to Carlton, I would give 0% chance.
Really?
James Hurd going to Carlton, I would give, in my just an opinion, 0 chance. Who's the other one you said?
Mr. Hinkley.
No, that would be a chance.
Would it?
That would be a chance for him to go there, not necessarily as coach next year, but to be a support to Michael Voss. And be like
that difficult a job, is it? You need 2 top-line coaches to coach.
I think you underestimate, and you and I are 2 people that probably can't talk about it, but I think you underestimate the stress levels and how difficult a job it is to coach an AFL team.
Oh, I don't underestimate the stress. I underestimate how much influence you have as a coach.
Yeah, hang on, this has just come up.
You've gone off.
Effects. No, I just said add. I'll just turn that off. It said I can add effects if I want. To hand gestures and everything. So I thought, no, Sam, it is a very difficult job, and I think the more support that you have around you.
It's a stressful job. It's not difficult.
Yes. Well, I think it's more difficult now than what it was in our day.
Really?
And the reason for that is because a coach could come in, and I guess it was a blanket approach for the whole team. And if you weren't tough and you couldn't cop a spray or you wouldn't, well, you know what? You got moved on. Whereas the approach we have now, it is the management of individuals. So Joey over there has to be mollycoddled. Brian over there, you can tell him he's a dingbat and he's not tough enough. Jeff over there, you've got there's a bit of both.
So Duck, that's in the interview process, the governance of a side, that's exactly what you pick a coach on, getting people to play for you, not in spite of you. After that, how hard is it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that element of the game, it is that we are more like the English manager style.
Yes.
We are, and I think we're getting, which is why I brought up maybe that could be Ken Hinkley's next role, and that is to come in and sit above. And by the way, if you remember rightly, Michael Voss spent about I don't know how many years, maybe 8 years or something with Ken Hinkley at Port Adelaide. So Ken Hinkley has worked with Michael Voss before. So I like that
reunion.
I like that synergy that you brought up. So I think you might have nailed one, Jackie.
So
by the way, the gossip columnists normally, what do they go? One for 1,000. What do they normally get right?
Oh, you asked Dylan there. He just
Jackie's probably one of the more accurate ones. Yeah, she's accurate.
So then they said did I understand this from afar, that they were thinking of having a mini finals competition for the sides that didn't make the finals. Did
and
I
that
understand
is
that to be the case?
Yeah, no, they're talking about a whole new competition, Sam, and it is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. The AFL can't even. Our game right now is compromised. They're talking about having a whole new competition, $5 million prize money. Well, if you can put $5 million prize money up for that, if they're talking about that, then put $5 million up prize money now for the actual competition that we're in. You don't even get that for what we're in now. All that it is we just create this. We just create noise for something for people to talk about. So all of these footy shows are now talking about this crap that we're talking about. It's never going to happen. It's a load of bull.
So was the idea that if you didn't make the finals, you didn't had a repechage finals for those sides that finished 9th and below?
Yeah, no, that's a wild card. No, you're talking about something completely different. They've been talking about the wild card for 5 or 6 years while you've been asleep. This is a new, while you've been at the back of Burke and you and Sue just frolicking through the daffodils, they've been talking about a whole new comp.
I see.
And it's just ludicrous. Little Cole's just woken up with Jess. Hello, Cole. Beautiful boy. He's just woken up, the little fella. Yeah, I'll say, come here and say hello to Sam. Look at this. Look at this. Say, hello.
Hello, Cole. How are you, my man?
Cole. Hello.
How's he going?
He's beautiful. He's just woken up. So,
put Jess on.
Hey, put Jess on.
I'll be
Give
right.
her a kiss. Give her a kiss on screen.
She just said, I'll be right, thank you. No, so things are going well, Sam.
So Duck, and then tonight is the. Now this is they're talking about the AFL having another state of origin game or round. They've just been inspired by the success of the NRL state of origin, which is on tonight.
Yes.
Why would you bother having a state of origin game in the AFL? Because it's a schmozzle.
Yeah, no, the thing that, and I say this often, and when we like the romance of talking about state of origin again, it just doesn't work, Sam. Unfortunately we've got too many states that play our game. The reason why it works in the NRL is because they have two states, so they have this massive rivalry. What I will say about the NRL, and we've already spoken about this on the podcast numerous times, the NRL promote their game. I think the way they do it is brilliant. If you've seen the ads about the game tonight, and they're talking about the decider because it's 1-1, but just the physicality that they show in the ads and the music they put to it, I want to run through a brick wall just watching the ad. Look, I've got a couple of mates that are going to a state of origin party tonight. I can't get there because I've got the family, but we're talking about Victoria. We're talking. Oh, I'll get there.
Somehow you'll get there.
No, but just the physicality. We're talking, and these are parties going on in Victoria. They're having state of origin parties for rugby league in Victoria. We love it. You know what? Because we love the toughness of it. We love the way that it's promoted. Yeah, look, you've got to love it. And obviously I'm a Wagga Wagga boy, Sam, so...
Oh, I met someone up here. I've met someone here who's in a caravan beside us. I said, where are you from? They said, Wagga Wagga. I said, from Wayne Carey territory. And they said, no, Frank Swanson comes from
Frank Swanson.
Wagga. I said, who's Frank Swanson? He said, he's an identity. I said, shit, eh?
Frank
I never heard
Swanson.
of, yeah, no.
I thought they might have said no, Paul Kelly or
No,
Jeff
they said Frank
or Jeff.
Swanson. I said, who's Frank Swanson? They
Jeff
said,
well,
oh, he's
well,
got a machinery shop in Wagga. I said, oh, shit.
well, I don't even know who Frank Swanson is.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
So Duck,
Yes.
the state of origin, I was just going to say about the state of origin. Sorry,
No, you're right. Don't worry. Hey,
lost what I was going to say
no,
about
but
it.
just on the state of, a little bit more on the state of origin. So they've had this year also, from what I've gathered, because once upon a time the New South Wales and the Queensland teams were made up of people or players that weren't born in New South Wales or Queensland. I think it's much more aligned in that area where they are. They are born in that particular state, and that brings about more of the passion. Obviously, in that second game, Sam, Billy Slater had got into a bit of a, I'd say,
Controversy.
yeah, it was a bit of a tiff with an ex state of origin player from New South Wales, and Billy. So there was a lot of feeling around that second game. I think it's going to spill into tonight.
Oh, it'd be great.
I will be watching tonight. It's obviously in Sydney, so they'll have the crowd behind them. It's going to be an absolute ripper tonight, I reckon.
Now, Duck, I'll just tell you what I couldn't remember.
That's all right.
I tell you what put the state of origin or the NRL on the map was I can't think of the woman's name who sang Simply the Best. What was her name?
Tina Turner.
Tina Turner. That was a great marketing coup. That became synonymous with the NRL, that song, Simply the Best. And they put all the biffs and all the heavy hits on it with her song.
It was that I totally agree. We were doing at the same time.
Isn't
I think
this
you might
annoying?
have frozen there for a little bit.
This is annoying, Duck.
Can you hear me, Sam?
No, we've frozen completely. Can you hear me?
We might have had a little glitch.
Earth to Duck.
But just in
Earth
case you
to
can
Duck.
still hear, the Tina Turner
come in,
song that they did for the rugby league was better than anything that the AFL has done in the history of promoting their game. There's no doubt about that. We had a little bit of a glitch there, I think, Sam, but I concur with that. And by the way, that Tina Turner song, that Simply the Best, that's the song that Rombo puts on when I walk out sometimes and do a thing for him. So he puts that song on for me, and I say to him, I said, Rombo, it's just slightly embarrassing, given that you're it's like me saying that I'm simply the best. And he goes, no, Duck, I want to put it on, and he makes me put it on.
Incidentally, because I've watched a great doco on Ronaldo, how he overcame injury and came back to play in the World Cup, and then I watched Maradona about how he got done for taking weight reducing drugs, a bit like what Shane Warne got suspended for.
Yeah,
and I came to think. I'm asking you this. If you had a choice, Duck, this is just a bit off left field. If you had a choice, would you like to be the best soccer player in the world, the best tennis player, the best golfer, the best boxer, the best entertainer, or are you just happy with being the best North Melbourne player ever?
Oh, no, you know what? I've been asked this question in a simple way a few times before, and that is, I think, out of all of the things that you'd want to be really famous in, you'd take rock star because there are no rules. You can do whatever you want. You're celebrated. You can do whatever you want. You can go out there. You can party, and it's all a part of your makeup. So
it's a badge of honour to take drugs and get pissed.
No, but not that. Not just that. To be a rock star in front of 100,000 people as an individual, like an Ed Sheeran, to stand up, pack stadiums and sing. Elvis, that'd be pretty awesome. But in terms of sport, and I can't believe I'll say this, but I think you would have to say be a soccer star.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to be a soccer star. And the reason why I don't say tennis or boxing, because that'd be pretty awesome as well, they're individual sports, which are great. but I think you get more in. I assume I'm just talking because I have never won a big award for an individual sport. I've never been a heavyweight champion or a Wimbledon winner, but I think being a part of a team and winning a championship, the enjoyment you get to celebrate with your team rather than you as an individual with, I guess, people that help you. Like you might have a coach or your osteo or doctor or whatever. But I think part of a world-winning team like soccer, I think would be the biggest thing.
Now, I don't know how long we've been going. I do know we've been going 35 minutes, I think.
Yep. Yep.
So I'll tell you what won't be in the annals of being a great sporting team or people who play the game, and that's
hang on. So if I ask you, just to reverse so if I asked you, what would you?
Yeah, entertainer
as well, and then what sport? What sport?
Soccer
as well. Okay.
Yep.
What about after soccer? What about individual sport? What would it be? Boxing, tennis,
golf.
Ooh, yep. Good one. I think I think you'd love to be the heavyweight champion of the world, just because if you're the heavyweight champion of the world, you regard it as before UFC came in. I know UFC fighters and all of that is very different, but in terms of if you were the heavyweight champion of the world, you regard it as the toughest man in the world. That'd be pretty good.
Well, you're nearly there, the Duck. You can handle most fights that occur. You can handle just about anyone that comes your way.
Toughest bloke in my own lunchbox. That's what I am.
Now, I'll tell you what is in a state of disrepair. Much as all as you try and rescue it and have become woke and just do the DEI stuff, is the women's game, the AFWL. That's in a lot of trouble.
Why?
It's costing a fortune. No one's going to it. The ratings are down.
Sam, it hasn't even started. It hasn't even started this year. North Melbourne. By the way, I saw the girls the other night. A few of the girls ran into obviously at the anniversary, and you know what? I must say, the girls, and not all. It's like it's no different to the men's. Some of the women have real presence, and we're talking the great players. They have real presence. That's.
Have a guess who said this?
What?
Your friend. Accuracy is not her long suit, but this is what she says. Caroline Wilson. Skills, crowds, and a $50 million loss. The AWFL causes the league grief.
Well, there was always going to be. There's always going to be a time where
we're pumping $50 million a year into it.
Yeah, and Sam, when you see the results of grassroots and you see how many girls are playing sport that normally wouldn't be playing sport, that have fallen in love with our great game, they've pumped the 50 million in. They've got it, pump it in. Like, it's not a puzzle. We've got the improvement in their game has been profound. They've gone from, like I said, you watch them 8 years ago to where they are now. And the reason for that is because girls are playing right from the start, from grassroots, and playing all the way through. So guess what? You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You've made a plan, you stick to it, you follow through with it, and you make this a great competition. And like I said, it is improving year after year after year. And to watch the dedication of the girls, the way they go about their training
they're
now.
Very dedicated. They're fantastic, the girls. But if no one's watching it and no one's going to the games...
I think the more we speak about it positively, I think the more the improvement in the game, I think that the fans will come. The fans will come.
Why don't they play the games before the AFL games?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So these are all the things that the AFL can improve on promoting the game. I don't think we promote our game well at all, Sam. And I'm talking about the men's as well. I think promote the game better. When they first hit the scene, then there was all this. You read about it all the time. There was fanfare. They're 4 or 5 weeks out from the season. Let's start promoting it. Let's talk about it. Let's encourage it.
Now, finally on this, just before we break and come back again, is there any player that you would, beside there'd be a handful maybe, is there any player playing today that would have squeezed their way into the team of the century in any other club that's going around?
Yeah, there's a few. Paddy
There's a few,
Dangerfield.
not many.
Yeah, Dangerfield certainly would.
So Dangerfield would he would squeeze himself into the team of the century at Geelong. Who would he displace?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know their team of the century.
No,
Outside
Dangerfield
observation.
certainly, but you got to say, who would you not have?
No, I know. I think Pendlebury at Collingwood, I think would be one that would be an automatic. You would probably say Lockie Neal. See, this is an interesting one. Just to get, if you look at Lockie Neal at Brisbane, he would have to displace Ackermanis, Lappin, Voss, Black. So,
Yes.
you're talking about some absolute, and then you combine that with the best Fitzroy because they're obviously a combination. So
that's my point, because the
Yeah.
standard, I don't have no problem saying this, because the standard of our game has declined because it's played differently now, and
Correct.
therefore there's not so much emphasis on skill and one-on-one combatants playing on one another, and no specialist players, and no one's accountable. It'd be pretty hard to fit anyone playing in the last decade or 2 decades to replace anyone in the team of the century of sides gone by.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like this. Like I said, the ones that just fly off the top would be Joel Selwood, who's recently retired. You've obviously got, like I said, Dangerfield, Pendlebury. They're the ones. Lockie Neal. They're probably the ones. And then you look at probably Dusty Martin, recently retired from Richmond. So, yeah, but there's not many, Sam. So we're talking. We agree on that.
Well, look, tell you what we'll agree on. We'll agree on we're going to stop now, and then we've got to reboot you to come back. If you could get the sun to shine any brighter in your background, I can only see you. I can see an outline of your torso. Can't see anything on you at all.
I'll change angles, and I'll just give the
pull
kids.
the blind down.
I'll give the kids a kiss, and I'll be back.
Go and give Jess a kiss.
All right.
Do it on camera.
Just stop. I'll just go. You stop.
Righto, we're back now. Okay, well, normally we'd play Daddy Cool now. We'd go, I'm open around the streets late at night, worried because you ain't treating me right. Come back again.